What's up, YouTube? This is the Mystical Carter. I've touched on this in a couple of my recent videos, and I went back and watched my conference call videos with the Morgan Fire and Poison Navy, and I didn't realize that a lot of this conversation, about an hour's worth of our conference calls that we were doing back and forth, and they were the only two people that I got a chance to call on somewhat of a regular basis and touch bases with a lot of different spiritual topics and things. But they were two people that stuck in there and allowed me to record the conversation and put it on here. But one of the things that we touched on was the prophecies of the year 2012, and we went into a little bit of different things that different cultures of people thought that would happen. Um, and it's so many different things that it would almost get confusing for me to have to break it down in one video. But one of the things that me and those two guys her and him went into was one of the myths of 2012 and the origins of the Anunnaki, being former alien visitors that came and interacted with the caveman back when human as a whole was still very primitive and still very kind of dumbfounded as to who he was, what he was doing on this planet, and everything else. Different other theologists said that they created human beings from genes of themselves and that primitive form of man. Like they used like cross genetics and ended up with us, what you see walking on the streets every day now. And so many other stories and things. I found a website and I found a lady here on YouTube. Her name is Jalila Star, and she has a website, www.nibirucouncil.com, and that breaks down. She's said to be a median of the Galactic Federation of Light, and one of their planetary stations, which she said is also pretty much a moving galactic ship, is the planet Nibiru itself. And on the website she gives a breakdown of the felines and the carnines, which played the part in creating the reptilians and the human beings. And then he gives a little history of each and a history of the three Earths, us being on the third one. This Earth, this planet right here, is the third. The other two were destroyed in former galactic battles, and a lot of people watch your videos and listen to it, and they just bash her. They do the normal YouTube bashing and not even researching anything that she or any of the rest of the people who believe in extraterrestrials, anything like that, say, or even open their mind up to the possibility that we're not here in this galaxy, let alone this universe alone. Me personally, I honestly never believed that we were. And that's without proof. I mean, that's just something I always felt on the inside. At one point in time, I remember when people didn't even believe in ghosts, but through documented paranormal activity, especially since it's made quite a few TV series and sitcoms based off of the fact that we are having more paranormal activity now than ever in recorded history. And I say recorded history because people forget that it's not it's not a point of we as humanity never experienced some of these things before, but the fact that it was never written down. The fact that I don't think we had means of recording, visual recording, voice recording on the level that we do now. So a lot of those stories and events were turned into told stories of mythology around campfires, around at dinner time at night, and it turned from myth to legend, and some things were kept and some things were forgotten. I mean, just like it said in the Lord of the Rings movie. I mean, that statement is very true and very realistic when you look at how stories of families, legacies, and family trees, and and stories of the land and the continents and countries and how cities and all these things were founded. Most of that stuff was passed down by word of mouth. At one point in time, a lot of Christians gonna get mad at me for saying this, but at one point in time, your Bible was passed down by word of mouth. And just like we all know from playing the telephone game, you pass a story around in a circle, even amongst the same people, enough times, the story is gonna get twisted up a little bit, especially if you throw in the fact that it can only be told to you once. Now, if you look at the era that we were living in back then, you would have travelers who would tell stories of where they're from and the gods and goddesses and myths and legends and heroines and great women and all that of their land. And then they might go on they move on to somewhere else or get to where they're going, or they might turn around and go back home. Either way, somebody kept the story and kept the story alive, but they might not have remembered it in exact detail the way it was told originally. And that's one thing that people really got hung up on and got into a whole bunch of bullshit over, was who's telling the story right. Well, if you don't remember correctly, I don't remember correctly, and the person who originally told it is dead now, then it's up to me and you to tell it to the best way that we can. And depending on the personality, other things might be thrown into the story just to add humor or just to keep the listener's attention. Things might be exaggerated. I mean, we exaggerate things on an everyday basis. So I mean, honestly, if you look at some of these great stories, I mean, who's to say some of those aren't exaggerated either? But getting back to the top of this video, like, what do you guys think about the coming of 2012? How many of you guys have seen these videos on indigo children and starseeds, and do you know anyone? Two, have you followed any of them? Because I mean, that's how I found Ravens Evermore and Jalila 9 here on YouTube, and I was watching those videos, and then a couple videos will pop up in the sidebar, and I was like, okay, I missed a whole awakening of these people and a whole era of these videos. And some of you feel like, well, you ain't missed none at all, and some people might feel like, oh my god, you missed everything, you know. Certain things in certain videos stuck out to me and made me think. And as a whole, sometimes before we cast judgment, I think sometimes we just need to watch the video and just think for a second, because some people make these videos just to make you think. Some people make these videos because they actually know what the hell they're talking about. Just because you personally don't agree with them, don't mean that what they're saying isn't the truth. And it certainly doesn't give you a means to go about talking shit and bashing them. I mean, but then again, there's always those people who would do that just because they get pleasure out of ridiculing and trying to make fun and make light of what somebody else is saying. There's some people that, for whatever reason, you're on this planet, it seems like you get no other enjoyment but to try to make somebody else look and feel bad. But but that's okay, because in the end, you're definitely gonna get yours too. I guarantee you that. But alright, I've already hit 10 minutes. So I'm gonna try to keep these videos short. And these videos, a lot of them, just like a lot of my videos, are just meant to open your mind. I always welcome comments, video responses, especially from the people I've befriended here. Yo, give me a shout back. Let me know what you think. Even if you disagree, that's perfectly fine with me. We're not going to get into no big YouTube internet war over it. I mean, it's not that serious. If an alien spaceship landed outside my window right now and said, look, you told everybody that you could tell, they don't want to believe, you come with me, I'm certainly not going to spend a whole another year or 2 years arguing with you or anybody else over the fact that I believe they're real and that I know that they're real. I'm just going to go, and hopefully from wherever they take me to, I'll contact you and let you know what's up, let you know that it's either as bad as you thought or it's not as bad as you thought, that everything's all good, and hopefully they'll come back and get you or whatever. I mean, that's probably seems a little bit out there for a lot of people, but I mean, seriously, are you really that self-righteous and that arrogant that you think that out of this vast galaxy in itself, let alone the universe, let alone the angelic sightings and everything else, do you really think it never got no bigger than human beings? Really? Because if you honestly think that most of religion and most of those type of things are bullshit, then that would almost put you in a group, and I don't even like categorizing people like that, but just for the sake of this particular conversation, that would almost put you in the category that thinks that this planet was a piece of land, a little bit of water. The water sat there long enough to where things just miraculously started living in it, and it made a tadpole, then it made a fish, then it made a lizard, then it made a this, then it made a that. Eventually we all started walking. Some of us went back to the water, chewed off or cut off our fins, and permanently lived in the water, and the rest of us became land dwellers. And as time evolved, as the earth changed through each of its cycles, that we just turned into different other things. Even in that, the whole evolution, I only believe in science people. Wouldn't you at least have to consider the potential super consciousness of human beings and shape shifting? I mean, evolution, a species just out of the blue goes from having a very short neck to having very long necks because trees grew 50 feet taller or 20 feet taller. Giraffes, what I'm talking about, just for example. But just today, every giraffe is just like a horse. Tomorrow, they just have 20-foot long necks out of nowhere. Really? That's where I'm going to end this, because this is probably reaching my limit. And I'm done. I'm done.